This is not just a book, because it carries a dangerous secret inside, and those who learned about it did not live for very long. Because this story has the power to shake a major belief and rewrite history. When it first appeared, it was not only rejected, it was banned by the Vatican. This is the story of the Gospel of Barnabas. It was hidden for centuries, but as reactions grew, they introduced another fake book under the same name to discredit it. But other copies of this book were claimed to be found in Turkey and Cyprus, and of course, they are very different from the version that was presented. In this video, we will follow the real Gospel of Barnabas. This will be one of the most special videos we have ever made. You are watching Religion Time Official. To not miss videos like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and write in the comments which country you are watching from. If you are ready, let's begin. Today, there are 4 Gospels accepted in the world: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But history tells us something important. After Isa, especially in the first centuries, there were many different Gospels in circulation. Some of them were similar to each other, but some of them were telling completely different things. The Gospel of Barnabas was one of these different texts. According to some claims, this book was saying the opposite of the accepted story. It said that Isa was not the Son of God.
Affect the foundation of belief. Throughout history, powerful systems usually react in the same way to things that challenge them. They destroy them, hide them, or make them look unimportant. The original text disappeared. Later, a different version was presented. This version was called fake, and the whole topic was discredited. So the goal was not only to hide it, but also to control how people see it. There is also an important detail here. The version of the Gospel of Barnabas known today is in Italian. This raises a serious question. Did Barnabas know Italian? No. He lived in the 1st century, and the language he most likely spoke was Aramaic. So the question becomes clear. If the text we have today is only a translation, where is the original? There is no clear answer to this. So the book you see today under the name Barnabas cannot be confirmed as original. Even if it is called a translation, there is no known original text. This creates confusion and can mislead people. However, according to some research and claims, the real text may not have been completely lost. It may have remained hidden or controlled. This is where the story becomes more complex, because this is not only about an old book. Some claims connect this topic to secret excavations in Turkey, night operations in Cyprus, texts that appeared and disappeared, and even reports of deaths. So, who is at the center of all this? Who was Barnabas? Was he really one of the closest people to Isa? Or was he a name that was later pushed out of history? To answer these questions, we first need to understand the person. Because the best way to understand a text is to understand the one who is said to have written it. Barnabas. For many people today, just a name. But for early Christianity, he was a very important figure. His real name? Yusuf. But the title given,
a primary source, much more important than the current Gospels. One of the most important turning points in Barnabas's life crosses with another name, Paul. This name is extremely critical, both for what he did and for today's understanding of Christianity. He is one of the most influential figures in Christian history.
But here is the interesting part. Barnabas and Paul were together for a time. They traveled together in the early period, before Paul changed. They spread the message. They preached in the same cities. But then something happened. A serious disagreement appeared between them. And this disagreement was not just personal. According to some accounts, this separation was about belief itself, about who Isa really was and how his message should be understood. Now think about this. If two important figures separate while spreading the same message, this is not a simple argument. This is the beginning of two different paths. On one side, Paul. On the other side, Barnabas. And history shows us this. Today's understanding of Christianity followed completely the path shaped by Paul. And Paul interpreted Christianity in his own way, in a form suitable for the Roman pagan world, so it could spread more easily. We will go into details about Paul soon, but let's look a little more at Barnabas's path. Although there is no exact information about the end of Barnabas's life, he continued to spread the message of Isa. At that time, the Romans were putting strong pressure on Christians, and according to the widely accepted view, he returned to Cyprus and he was killed there. According to some accounts, he became a target because he was spreading his belief, and in the end, he was silenced. But something very interesting happened. Paul, who had conflicts with him, and who spread the idea of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, continued his path with growing power, and even with the support of pagan Rome. The first century of Christian history, known as the Age of the Apostles, begins in Jerusalem around 33 after Isa, and ends around 100 in Anatolia with the death of the last apostle. In this 70-year period, the name of Barnabas appears many times. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, Barnabas traveled with Paul to Cyprus and Anatolia to spread their beliefs. They walked together, spoke together, and worked together.
Barnabas was someone who learned directly from people who knew Hazrat Isa alayhi salam and wanted to pass on his message exactly as it was. Paul, however, was thinking in a very different way. The philosophical education he received in Tarsus made him think in a systematic way, and Paul began to redefine who Isa was. Barnabas was against this. Barnabas saw Isa not as the Son of God, but as a messenger of Allah. The belief in one God was a non-negotiable foundation for him, and at this point, the distance between him and Paul became impossible to close. Sources tell us that Barnabas and Paul separated and never came together again. Paul continued his missionary journeys. He wrote letters, he established churches. The letters he wrote now form an important part of the New Testament, and the main doctrines of Christianity today, the Trinity, the theology of the cross, the divinity of Isa, are largely shaped by Paul's writings. Barnabas, on the other hand, returned to Cyprus, and the book said to be written by him was telling a completely different story. So how did what Paul said become accepted, while the belief in one God held by Barnabas and many early Christians was pushed aside? This is exactly where we must look at history. In the year 325 after Isa, the Council of Nicaea was held, and a decision was going to be made. Which Gospels were true and which were false? Think about it. 300 years passed after Isa, and only then the doctrines of Christianity and its book were decided. This alone is a serious issue. And the ones who gathered this council were the same Roman Empire that had persecuted and killed Christians for years. The capital of the Roman Empire was no longer Rome.
it was being moved to Constantinople. Emperor Constantine was on the throne, and he needed something to hold together his collapsing empire. That tool would be religion. But which religion? Which Isa? Which gospel? Emperor Constantine sent invitations across the empire. All Christian leaders would gather in a small city in northwest Anatolia, Nicaea. According to sources, 2,048 religious leaders attended this meeting, and in front of all of them, there was one central.
Containing these beliefs had to be destroyed. Those who believed in Arian's views were excommunicated and punished. But the question he asked did not die. Is Isa really the Son of God? This question was suppressed in Nicaea, but it never disappeared. For centuries, it continued to be whispered. The idea that today's Gospels are not revelation texts is not only a claim made by Muslims or researchers, even Christian theologians accept this. The four canonical Gospels we have today, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are texts that describe the life and words of Isa. But the way they were written is very important. They were written generations later. In other words, they were written by people who saw those who saw Isa. So the format is like this. Isa said this. Isa did that. This happened that day. We saw this.
There was writing on it, a script he did not understand at that moment. Later, it would be understood. It was an Aramaic text written in the Syriac alphabet, the language spoken by Isa. The villager did not know what the book was, but he understood it was valuable. He told people around him, but soon this reached the gendarmerie, and the book was taken by official authorities. The news that the Gospel of Barnabas was found in Turkey somehow spread, and this news alarmed the Vatican through its embassy in Ankara. The Vatican sent an official letter to the Turkish Ministry of Culture. They asked for information about the book. The ministry investigated, and the response sent to the Vatican was, "We do not have the Gospel of Barnabas." Think about this. One of the most powerful religious institutions in the world is asking through official diplomatic channels about an ancient book found in a mountain village in Turkey. This alone says a lot. The book was first kept at the Diyarbakir Marshal Court. It stayed there for a few years. Then it was sent to Ankara, and in Ankara it reached the highest levels of the state. Sources say the book was taken to the General Staff headquarters, and from there to a secret headquarters in Besiktas, claimed to belong to a special military unit. And there it was translated by Hamza Hoja. A gospel, a military headquarters, and secrecy. Some people are forced to carry the heaviest secrets in history. They do not choose this burden. The burden finds them.
There's a small monastery. Everything is quiet. Then, a sound. Someone knocks on the door. The security guard opens it and sees 13 men, all dressed in black, all holding automatic weapons. Their leader steps forward and says, "We will carry out an exercise here. You wait in the church across. Do not leave." What could the guards do? There was an armed group in front of them. Silently, they move to the other building, and the door of the monastery closes. No one sees what happens inside. But in the morning, freshly dug soil is seen in one corner of the monastery. But this story actually goes much further back. In the year 477, the Bishop of Cyprus, Anthimus, had a strange dream. In the dream, Saint Barnabas appeared and said, "My grave is in that place. Come and find me." Anthimus took this seriously. He went with his team near the ruins of Salamis, and he found what he was looking for. A cave. Inside it, a tomb. Inside the tomb, bones. And on the bones, a handwritten gospel. For centuries, this place was protected. Until modern times. Researcher Hamza Yardımcıoğlu personally entered this cave. He saw the tomb. He saw the heavy marble block on it. It could not be moved. Until 1996, during filming in Cyprus, Yardımcıoğlu spoke with a worker who had been working at the monastery for 25 years. The man hesitated. Years had passed, but the fear was still visible on him. He did not want to speak, but finally he said, "Yes, that night there were soldiers here. They said it was an exercise. They sent us to the other building. In the morning, we saw." He did not finish his sentence. An investigation was started after this event, but shortly after, it was closed.
None of this existed. Instead, secrecy orders, armed security with long rifles, a closed area. Members of parliament wanted to go there. They were not allowed. Even the governor wanted to go. He was also not allowed. One of the most striking claims comes from what some members of parliament learned. They said that before the excavation, treasure hunters were already working there, using coordinates sent directly from the Vatican. So the question becomes, how did the Vatican know what was under an ordinary house in Tarsus? Two archaeologists whose identities were hidden shared something unusual. Their voices were changed for security. They said in the excavation area, very strong frequencies were being emitted, beyond what humans can normally hear. So strong that the team had to take special measures to protect their ears. Local residents also reported strange things. Phones and cars were often malfunctioning. Sometimes cars started by themselves. While members of parliament were waiting outside, security forces told them, "This is a national matter. Please wait. Our president will make a statement." If what was found was a normal archaeological discovery, the governor or the Ministry of Culture would explain it. But instead, they said the president will explain. And that explanation never came. So right after this excavation, why did Recep Tayyip Erdogan go to the Vatican? In politics, there are no coincidences. When a head of state visits another country, it is usually planned months in advance. Unplanned visits are very rare, and when they happen, there is usually a strong reason behind them. Right after the Tarsus excavation, the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, visited the Vatican. The excavation became public in November 2016. It stayed in the news for a few days, then silence. And right after this silence, Erdogan met Pope Francis in the Vatican.
No one asked this question. No one asked the Vatican about it. So why did the Vatican feel the need to make this statement? In law, this is called a spontaneous declaration. Answering a question before it is asked often suggests that something is being hidden. In 325 AD, at the Council of Nicaea, the Gospel of Barnabas was banned. In 366 AD, Pope Damasus officially banned it. For centuries, even saying its name could lead to death. In 1982, it was found in Hakkari. The state took it. It was translated in a secret headquarters. In 1996 in Cyprus, an armed group came at night. In 2016 in Tarsus, something was found. It was covered with secrecy. The Vatican gave coordinates. The president went to the Vatican. No explanation came. The same reaction for more than 1,000 years. The same reaction. The Vatican's counter-strategy? The 1907 operation. There are two ways to eliminate a truth. The first, destroy it physically. The second, replace it with something false. To move people away from the real truth, you give them a false version of it. And this second method is far more intelligent. For centuries, the Vatican tried to destroy the Gospel of Barnabas, but it could not fully eliminate it. So a more sophisticated strategy appeared. Today, there is a text known as the Gospel of Barnabas. It is sold in bookstores, found online, and translated into many languages. This text is